son is racing.
Welcome, race fans, to another edition of the Rubbin' Is Racing Daily Fantasy NASCAR Show. We've got all your action from Darlington, the Lady in Black, the track too tough to tame for the Bojangles Southern 500. I'm excited, Liehr. I know you are. We get Ken Squire in the broadcast booth, the guy from Rad, the Hell Track announcer himself, and we get throwback cars. It's one of my favorite weeks. When we go racing this week, the stages are going to be at lap 100, lap 200, and then we race all the way to the finish on lap 367.
Interesting fact here from Darlington is the winner of the races has started in the top 10 6 out of the last 10 times. Chevy and Toyota have split those last 10 wins, 5 apiece, with Toyota winning the last 2. Ford has not won here since 2006. Hopefully that changes this weekend.
If you're telegraphing your pick a little bit at all there. The weather should be golden for us this weekend, kids, as temps are supposed to be in the low 80s when we go racing Sunday, September 3rd at 6 p.m. Look, kids, as you can see, I'm all decked out in Houston Texans gear, and Liehr's all decked out retro style for this weekend. But we wanted to make a statement. Our hearts go out to all those affected by Hurricane Harvey. As you can see, I'm all about J.J. Watt and the Texans this weekend. J.J. Watt's an amazing human being, and he's even a better human being than he is a football player, which is an impressive feat. He's raised over $15 million to help out Houston and those affected by Hurricane Harvey. Look, guys, we do this show for free, so I'm going to ask all of our viewers out there that are awesome people to do something huge for a favor for us and for everybody out there. We're going to ask you to spend what you would spend if you were paying for fantasy information out there. It should be around at least $10, right? Go ahead and spend at least that and make a donation to J.J. Watt's hurricane relief efforts. Go to ucaring.com/JJ Watt and make a donation, guys. Anything you can donate will help out. I know if you're in the position where you're playing daily fantasy, maybe it's just entering one less team and giving that money this week to a good cause and helping out the people affected by the floods and the hurricane in Houston. Liehr, do you have anything to add to that before we get into the picks?
Yeah, definitely. My family and our hearts go out to the people in Houston. What a terrible situation. But that's one thing I love about this country is we can come together regardless of our views and opinions on things and help out our fellow man. And definitely encourage all you guys to go out there and do the same because there are a lot of people out there that need our help. Not only, going down there, which I may end up doing, but also, financially, this is something that is going to take a long, long, long time to get that city back to where it was. So our thoughts and prayers are definitely with the people there for sure.
Absolutely. So, guys, seriously, do what you can, donate, and especially support the charities that are going to get actual money to the people, like J.J. Watt's Foundation. Like that is what's most needed in these times of crisis, and that's why we're asking you. We don't ask for money on the show. We do this for free for our love of NASCAR and our love of fantasy. So do what you can and just take a second and donate 10, 20, whatever you can to J.J. Watt's hurricane relief effort. And once again, that's ucaring.com/JJ Watt. All right, I think that's enough talk of that. Let's get into the race for this weekend. Yeah. Liehr, do the honors. Some Darlington.
Can't wait to do this. Martin Robert Darlington throwback style, baby!
I want to compliment you, first of all, on your jacket choice. That is fabulous.
This is circa 1970. Picked it up, gosh, I would say over 10 years ago with one of my friends when we were going to a throwback party. I did pick up 2 suits. This one is just the jacket, but the other one, man, is the full get-up, like the jacket, the pants, and the undercoat as well. So, but needless to say, I've packed on a few pounds since that has happened, so that's probably why I look a little Tommy Boyish. This weekend's awesome with the throwback because that's what this sport is about. It's about the love of NASCAR, but also throwing homage to those that came before us in the sport, and there's definitely a lot of awesome cars and drivers that have raced in NASCAR, and this is their weekend, so it's definitely awesome to see.
Yeah, and for those of you that haven't had the pleasure of seeing Liehr in a leisure suit like I have, you are missing out. All right, Liehr.
I even went to the stash too.
Yeah, like the stash. Although, I like it better when you go even more bushy and round the corners. I think that should have went more 70s on the stash this week.
I did.
All right, Liehr, who do you have to burn some rubber for us this week, buddy?
I mean, man, awesome to be back with you guys, especially after the break last weekend. So I hope you guys all had a nice break, and welcome back. It's awesome to be back, and I'm actually going to be starting with a guy that's definitely a no-brainer when it comes to this weekend. Going to be going with Harvick in the number 4 Stuart Haas Busch Beer throwback car this weekend. They're definitely primed to have a great Bojangles Southern 500 tomorrow night. Harvick is on the pole, which should be no surprise to anyone, and has just absolutely dominated this track in the last handful of years. In 2014, he went 1-1, leading 238 laps. 2015 was not the same, but started 3rd and finished 5th, but he did lead 44 laps. And then last year, he started on the pole again, finished 2nd, and led 214 laps. So in this weekend, in my opinion, there will be no different situation for him starting on the pole this week. He's definitely going to be a favorite to obviously take home the win this weekend. His cost is $9,700, which is 5th highest, which makes him a value just in his cost based on everybody else in DraftKings pricing. But since the new aero package in 13, he has not finished higher than 5th. And when I say higher, I mean 5th and above. So he's always finished, I think it was 5th, 2nd, and 1st. So with the amount of Dominator points up for grabs, he's just going to accumulate tomorrow night a bunch of those. And even if he does finish a little 5th or even a little bit higher, he's going to be a must-own play by the time the checkered flag flies based on the amount of fastest laps and laps led he's going to have tomorrow night. He will obviously come with a huge ownership percentage, but at the end, when that checkered flag flies, it's not going to matter. You're going to have him based on points alone. So plug him in, be smart. If you are a multi-lineup player, just make sure that you do have some lineups for that just in case if something does happen. But Kevin Harvick, no-brainer this weekend. That is my 2 cents on the number 4 team because he's just going to – I mean, he said earlier too that he just loves racing here at Darlington, and it shows with his performances. So I'm going to be all over Harvick tomorrow night for sure.
Yeah, see, Liehr, I don't know, man. He's only led 496 laps here in the last 3 races. I mean, I would clearly be on him if he had led 500, but 496 just isn't going to cut it. No, seriously, what more do you want? I agree. Harvick's awesome here. He's straight dominated the race, and I mean, the guy dominates. And even though he may not win or may finish 2nd or whatever, it's still going to be someone you have to have on your lineup. And I think someone else you're going to have your lineup on is my burning rubber pick, and that's the ham bone himself, Denny Hamlin at 9,900. He's starting 9th at 9,900, starting 9th. And I know this is going to sound straight like I'm going Liehr Rain Man style in this pick. And in 9 of his 11 races, he's finished in the top 10. He's also has 6 top 5s and a win at this track. He also tends to lead laps here, although not a lot. He leads around 30 laps here. He was also top of the board during practice 1 in 10-lap averages. He was 5th in 10-lap averages in practice 2, where it looked like they were mostly just trying to be comfortable finding new lines, not even trying to run the car hard. I love what I'm seeing out of Hamlin. Starting 9th, as we've seen multiple times this year, you want that car in the back of the top 10 as well that's going to get you place differential. He's a guy that likes to finish between 4th and 1st here. I like him, and to be honest, man, my lineup started with him and Harvick this week. Liehr, your thoughts on the ham bone?
Yeah, Denny Hamlin, man, and that throwback paint scheme it's pretty awesome. No, without a doubt, I think the way you're going to have to lean this weekend is at least 2 high top guys in the top 10 to be your dominators for the most highest costing drivers because it's crazy this weekend. I mean, we're starting off with Harvick and starting on the pole. Then you got Truex, Kyle Busch, and Kyle Larson. for the big Dominator guys, starting 1, 2, 3, 4, which we haven't had that in quite some time. So this weekend, it's going to definitely, I think it's going to jumble up a few things for fantasy players this week, because you're going to have to make those tough decisions. It's not going to be the easy choice of, picking the guy starting on the pole and then somebody starting with a higher name in the teens and then some in the 20s. We don't have that this weekend. It's definitely the cream of the crop is on the top this weekend. But no, when it comes to a guy that can obviously get a win here, get some Dominator points, but also input some of those place differential points, Denny Hamlin I'm right there with you, brother. I mean, the guy is obviously in 11 races and being in the top 5, 6 of those 11. Those are awesome stats. And he's got 9.5 as his average starting position with an average finish of 6.3. So, this guy, like you said, doesn't lead a ton of laps, but always hanging around the top 5. Last year he finished 4th. The year before that he finished 3rd. 19th the year before that. And then in 2013 he finished 2nd, where he actually finished second in 2012 and 2013. So it's pretty clear that Hamlin loves racing at this track. And it's been a while since we've seen some domination from Denny Hamlin in that number 11 team. So I wouldn't be surprised if he comes out tomorrow night and not saying he's going to be complete dominant, but, I think he definitely has a chance to share those Dominator points if something does happen to Harvick. So I definitely like the Harvick-Hamlin combination for sure. And I think that Hamlin may get overlooked a little bit because I think a lot of players are going to be looking at those top 4 guys and making their decisions on who they're going to play. And then when it comes down to salary-wise, you're going to have to pick drivers below that. So you may get old Hambone at a minor ownership percentage here this weekend. So I don't know what you think about that.
Yeah, no, I'm hoping to get him at low ownership percentage. And I think now's kind of a good time. Like, what do you think about Larson, Rowdy, and Truex? I mean, they're guys that any given week you can plug into your lineup that are great, but with them all starting in the top 4 like that, I feel like you have to take one, maybe 2 of them if you have 2 of them splitting up the domination, right? And then jump off the rest. Like, there's no way that the group of them are going to finish up at the top, split the laps evenly, and finish to where you need them all, right? So you have to take a stand. Are you taking a stand with Larson, Rowdy, Truex, or are you just playing Harvick and bouncing off?
Honestly, kind of the way that I think it's going to play out tomorrow, and history tells us here that you're going to have the one guy that starts in one of those positions, 1, 2, 3, or 4. They're going to finish right up there, and they're going to lead majority of the laps. Now, this is the first time, because we only race here at Darlington once a year, that we've got those segments being implemented. And it's kind of come into play, but at some places it has not. And honestly, I think that this is one of those tracks where we do get, quite a few green flag races. So there's hardly any cautions or wrecks here. So, but I don't think the segments are going to play that big of a deal into the race tomorrow night. So, yeah, I'm totally leaning on going Kevin Harvick. And then, I'm going to have some exposure on Truex. I'm going to have some exposure on Kyle Busch. I'm going to have some exposure on Kyle Larson. But the ownership percentage is not going to be near what it is at other tracks because, in my opinion, I think you're just going to have one of those guys and then pick from somebody else from the top 10, whether that's Keselowski or Hamlin or somebody that starts in the up. This track has also shown us that a lot of these lower tiered guys go laps upon laps down. Wow. So for them to make up positions, it's going to be hard. So you definitely want to get more of the mid-tier drivers this week. So I'm definitely gonna have some exposure on Kyle Busch and Truex and Larson, but it's gonna be pretty minimal because I'm pushing all my chips in on Kevin Harvick just dominating this race tomorrow, as I assume a lot of other fantasy players as well will be as well. But those guys definitely have some good history here when it comes to Darlington. I mean, Truex won last year, starting 8th. Kyle Busch is also one of those guys that he's had a fantastic season this season.
And what he did last weekend, or 2 weekends ago, dominating, winning all 3 races for the second time in his career. unheard of. Like, the guy's on fire. I'm with you. Like,
and he's got one win here in 12 races. But then also, you know, Kyle Larson, he hasn't raced here that many times. He's only raced here 3 times, but he's got at least one top 5. But all 3 races, he's finished in the top 10. But if you have to go the Kyle Larson route, you know, starting from where he starts from, is he starting from 4th, I think? Yeah. So he's starting from the 4th position. You know, he's going to have to get up front and lead laps for him to pay off, even if he, you know, finishes in the top 10. And in my opinion, at his price tag, that's just not going to happen. So I'm going to play some Kyle Larson in my lineups, but I would say on the Kyle Larson, Kyle Busch, Martin Truex route, I'm probably going to go 20% or less, man, to be quite honest with you. I do like Brad Keselowski a little bit. He does have some good history here. But I'm right there with you. I like Denny Hamlin, and then drivers starting from the back that are going to stay on the lead lap.
Yeah, and let's talk about some of those guys right now before we get to the value segment, because they're not really value plays. They're more expensive than that. And I'm talking about Dale Jr. starting from the middle of the pack. I mean, we've been over this week in and week out. I'm still not convinced he's worth running, and he's starting probably where he's going to finish. We've got Jimmy Johnson starting 18th, and we've got Suarez starting 19th. Right. So those are guys I like that are in that mid-range. I'm leaning towards Suarez and Jimmy and leaving off Junior. What are your thoughts, bud?
As far as the Dale Earnhardt aspect, it's one of those positions to where you kind of have to have exposure on Junior for just in case. I mean, I think a lot of other fantasy players too will be like, well, I think he may end up with the top 10, which that's 12 place differential points there. And then whatever he's going to obtain through fastest laps, which I think will be minimal. I mean, again, do I have full confidence in the nationwide throwback number 88? No. But do you have to kind of have some exposure on him? Yeah. But the other guy you didn't mention is Chase Elliott, starting 20th.
Yes.
He's another guy that's a high dollar guy. Starting in that 20th position, it just kind of, I don't know what's going on with Hendrick Motorsports, because you got Johnson starting 18th, Elliott starting 20th, Earnhardt starting 22nd, and then you've got Casey Kane starting, I believe, is 23rd. But all those guys starting late. You know, they're all definitely primed to be place differential guys this week. It's just you got to pick the right one. But one guy I like more than them, and he's actually starting a little bit higher, but is Ryan Newman, to be honest with you. And I know that may shock some of you because that's RCR, and he's starting higher, but Newman's got 18 starts here. He's got 7 top 5s, man. 7 top 5s, 12 top 10s, and he's led 334 laps here at Darlington, which is one of the higher guys when it comes to laps led. So watch out for Ryan Newman tomorrow night. I know his price went up this week quite a bit. He's in the $8,000 range. Let me see. I think he's 8,100. But at that price point and starting 17th, a guy that definitely can get you some great place differential. And I know for sure I'm going to throw this out the window, but he's not going to win the race tomorrow night. But would I be shocked if he gets a top 5? Honestly, not, man. I'd love Ryan Newman for tomorrow night.
Fair enough. I get your argument. I just wouldn't want to play him because you're going to get confused between him and Austin Dillon, being that they have the exact same paint scheme. We're the exact same team. Like, what in the world are they thinking, man? Like, we get it. You're proud of your Earnhardt heritage. Like, we got it. One car works. Like, let's do another version on another car. But no. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah. I don't quite understand it, but you know, Richard Childress is a guy that has a lot of money. He can do whatever he wants to, and you know, good for him.
I know, but really, too, like blue and yellow Wrangler inspired. Yeah, whatever. Anyways, all right, guys, let's go to the value segment. As you can tell, there's a lot of money that you need to spend, and value is going to be interesting this weekend. I think Liehr put out a really good argument earlier that you need to pay attention to. Here at Darlington, there's a propensity for drivers to go lots of laps down, especially if they're in substandard equipment. So basically what we did this week, because a lot of the value qualified right where they're supposed to, is we're going to give you several guys in the value range, talk back and forth about them between the two of us, and tell you where our cutoff is and why we won't dip below that. The first person that we're going to talk about is Danica, and I think she's going to be the highest owned this weekend. I think Lear's going to agree with that at 6,200. She's starting 33rd, And even though she's starting 33rd and in really legit equipment, she is statistically hot, wet garbage at this track. And that's what I'm worried about. And I'm worried about people just gravitating towards her and not realizing that this is not a track she drives well on. She traditionally goes backwards here. I would rather go with one of the other guys that we're going to talk about here in a little bit, but let's get Liehr's thoughts on Danica first.
When it comes to her price, $6,100 is a great price for somebody of her stature and somebody starting from the 33rd position. And she meets Poppa's paradigm this weekend.
Absolutely.
Like you said, she doesn't have the best of stats here in 5 races. Her best finish that she's had here was 22nd, and that was in 2014. The last handful of races, she's pretty much finished where she started, except for in 2015 in the Lady in Black car, GoDaddy Lady in Black car. She finished 42nd because she crashed. But other than that, she's finished started 25th, finished 24th, started 33rd, finished 22nd. So she has some decent place differential. She has an average starting position of 33.2 and an average finish of 29.4. So, can she get some place differential? Yes, but when it comes to significant amount of place differential, I'm going to say no. I think to cap out her here at Darlington, I would say she's not going to finish any higher than possibly 26th. So, but you are talking about a driver with the same equipment, Stuart Haas racing equipment, as the guy that, dominates here. The difference that we're talking about here is the driver. And there's a significant difference between Harvick and Danica. So when it comes to my place differential plays this week, will I have exposure on Danica? Absolutely, because it's one of those plays where it just sticks out to you on paper where you see she's starting 33rd. And I think the majority of the community is going to see that too. But will I go way over owned on her? No, I'm not going to. If I was to do 10 lineups, I would say I'd probably have her in probably 30%. So 3 out of 10 maybe.
Yeah, no, look, like she's been overperforming this year. I like what she's been doing with that car from her previous history, but I just don't see her gaining a whole lot of spots here and paying off. And for the ownership that she's going to have, I would rather leverage myself on a different play. One of those guys is Michael McDowell at 6,100 starting 30th. I think this is the main spot I'm going to use as a pivot, him and Chris Buescher at 6,600 starting 27th. Now, let me explain why. McDowell has been finishing in the top 20s, and when things go wrong for other drivers, he's been able to get into the teens and even borderline top 10 finishes. Buescher has basically done the same thing. They've both been way overperforming what those cars are traditionally capable of. I would rather take those drivers that are higher in skill that I know will fight to stay on the lead lap than somebody that's in better equipment that is going to be struggling to stay on the lead lap solely because of their driving skill level, and they're going to have a majority of the fantasy community on them. I would just rather be on Buescher or McDowell or even Allmendinger starting 29th at 6,300 than I would be on Danica. Your thoughts, Liehr? I know I kind of threw a threefer in there, but...
Well, yeah, when it comes to Michael McDowell, I've had him as my value play a handful of times this year because, that team has just done amazing this year for a one team, Levine Family Racing. The guy has just been awesome, and I still am scratching my head. I know we've had conversations around this that I don't understand how some of these bigger teams aren't, gravitating towards Michael McDowell and saying, hey, we would love for you to drive our car, next year. Because I can only imagine what this guy could do with better equipment. But this being his, starting position this week, this is the highest this guy started since June 18th at the Firekeepers Casino 400, which is, we're talking almost 3 months ago. Every race, he's always qualified in the late teens, early 20s, mid 20s. This is the latest that this guy has qualified in a very, very long time. And at $6,100, would I rather have? He's basically Danica Patrick is $100 more. Would I rather have Michael McDowell starting 30th? Hell yes, I would rather have Michael McDowell. I just feel like this guy is, he keeps getting better and better year after year. And when it comes to this racetrack, it suits him real well. So I definitely love the Michael McDowell play this weekend. He's only raced here 5 times, but he had some issues here, 3 out of the 5. He's crashed once and just had car issues the other 2 times. But the last year, he started 30th and finished 27th. So, at that price, I definitely feel like he's going to be higher than 25th when it comes to his finishing position. Because let's be honest, he's definitely been a top 25 car all year, has he not?
All year, hands down. No, the only reason why you weren't playing Michael McDowell is because he's been over-qualifying or qualifying exactly where that car is going to end up finishing or right around there. And so you couldn't play him. He wasn't the place differential guy that he had been in the past. But he had a bad qualifying run, and I expect to see him moving forward like he has been all year. I love this play, and I would rather take him that people aren't going to be on and use him as a leverage play against Danica that I think the majority of players are going to be on.
Yeah, and Chris Buescher, you were talking about him. Obviously last year was his first year on the Sprint Cup. It was Sprint Cup last year, but Monster Cup. But dude started 31st, finished 17th. That's huge for somebody, and he was in worse equipment last year. So
yep.
I definitely think that Chris Buescher is going to be a play as well. I think a lot of people have started leaning on Chris Buescher, seeing what he's been doing. And starting 27th, that is a great position for him. I mean, the guy's been up and down all year when it comes to fantasy, but when you hit him on the right weekend, I mean, the guy's had 2 top 10s in the last 6 weeks, scoring in the 50s, and even 11th at the I Love New York road course race. Now, last week, he started not last week, but 2 weeks ago, he started way too high in 15th and finished 27th. But before that, man, he's had 2 really good weeks with an average week and then another really good week. So I definitely love the Chris Buescher play for tomorrow night for sure.
Yeah, I mean, guys, there's a couple of other value plays that I'm not really interested in making. One of them is Matty DB at 57. The problem is I love Matty DB, and if he was starting behind this spot by about 5 spots, 33rd, I would love to play him this week. But I don't think that he has the chops or the car to get it done here, even though he's a great driver. Probably get you a few place differential. But the reason why we're including him mostly is that that's the ceiling. He is absolutely the last driver that I would look at this weekend. Like, any equipment below that level is just, in my opinion, straight garbage, and you don't want to deal with any of it, especially at a track like Darlington, where they're going to be struggling to stay on the track and not be several laps down. And I mean 10 to 15 laps down fairly early. The other play is Trevor Bayne. He's starting 24th. He's 7,100, but he has an absolute garbage history here. But he's only raced here twice. This will be his 3rd race here. So if you want to take a stand and try to roll the dice on Trevor Bayne, I am totally about it, because he's not too expensive at 7,100. He's not super cheap, but that's a car that we've seen finish in the teens week in and week out, and we've seen the counterpart, Stenhouse, be a teens guy that finishes in the top 10. So we know that those cars are capable of top 10 finishes. I kind of want to play Bayne, but part of me doesn't, because he's a dumpster fire at this track, and this is the track that is too tough to tame. Liehr, do you think he can tame it this weekend?
Well, from a couple weeks ago, he's coming off of a pretty sweet finish. I mean, dude, he was up there, and I was like, wow. And unfortunately, I didn't have him on my team. No, when you get a guy of, I would consider Roush Fenway Racing. They're not obviously on the top tiers with Joe Gibbs and Hendrick and Stuart Haas, but they have been up there as far as an organization. They are a middle-tiered kind of team because they only have 2 cars now, but that means they can just put more resources into those 2 cars. Oh, yeah. But anytime you can get one of those guys starting, from 25th, 24th, 26th, somewhere in there, I mean, they're always going to be a play for you to put in your lineups. I think he probably will come with especially coming off of that performance that he had 2 weeks ago, people knowing that he was in the winning lineup 2 weeks ago. I think that he's going to come with a higher ownership percentage. So I will have some exposure on Bayne, but I would actually would rather swerve off of the Bain train and go a little different. Maybe that be Chris Buescher or heck, even Casey Kane. Now I know he's more of an expensive driver than Trevor Bain and Chris Buescher, but starting 23rd, that's a good position for Kane. But also, Bain is one of those guys. Like you said, he's got garbage history here, and he has minimal exposure here. Only 2 races under his belt at this track, so it is definitely a different track to race. It's different banking on both sides, so it's definitely one of those where the more experience that you have racing on this track, the better. But I definitely will have minimal exposure on Bain this weekend.
Does that wrap up value for you, or is there anybody else you're looking at? I mean, we've got some of those RCR cars that are questionable value, and Newman and Menard. Anything else to add?
I think somebody that he's not really a value play per se, but somebody that is in good position and somebody that's in the same equipment as the guy that, in my opinion, is going to dominate this race tomorrow, and that's Clint Bowyer. Clint Bowyer starting 16th. At $8,400, I think is somebody that you need to be cognizant of as well. He's done very well here when it comes to Darlington, and I think that him in Tony Stewart's old car, obviously last year, being with a horrible team, and then this year he's got the equipment. He doesn't quite have the history that people would really per se love to have. I mean, he's got 11 races under his belt and 1 top 10, 6 top 20s, but he hasn't, led a ton of laps there either, only 16 in his career. But starting from the 16th position, I feel like this is a good spot for Clint Bowyer this weekend to at least get a top 10, maybe even a top 5, and surprise some people this weekend and possibly come with that low ownership percentage. So we'll see what happens with that.
Yeah, I would also tell people to look out for Daniel Suarez starting right next to him. That's also going to be a possible great place differential play. And we've seen that car be solid all year long, and he's a guy that likes to move up. But with that said, guys, I think that pretty much covers everybody that we're interested in playing this week. We've at least talked about them a little bit. Now it's time to talk about the people we're not interested in playing this week in our Going to the Garage segment. This is our chance to talk a little bit of trash, maybe on a team, maybe on a driver. Some weeks it's on NASCAR. Some weeks it's on DraftKings. Just whoever we want to talk smack on that week. Liehr, talk some smack on a driver this week. Who are you sending to the garage, buddy?
Well, on this Labor Day weekend, by the way, I hope you guys all have a great weekend this weekend. Enjoy your 3 days off. But I'm going to be going with Kurt Busch. Obviously, Kurt Busch is locked in the playoffs with his win at Daytona to lead off the season. But this throwback weekend at Darlington started off pretty nice for him. But by the time the checkered flag flies tomorrow night, the weekend's not going to end very good for the number 41 team. But since the new aero package in 4 races, Kurt has started 1st, 13th, 2nd, and 4th. So obviously the trend there is this guy starts really high here at Darlington. And then he's got finishes of 14th, 31st, 6th, and 34th. And 2 of those 4 races, he crashed. So again, this weekend, he has a nice starting position at 7th, and his cost is 15th highest at $8,200. He has an average start of 11.5 and an average finish of 18.2. So I know some will say, well, he's in the same equipment as Harvick. And I know I talked about that earlier with Danica Patrick and all, and Clint Bowyer. But you're right. He is in the right equipment. But this track is just not one of Kurt's best tracks that he races, unfortunately, on the circuit. And he frankly starts too high this weekend. So avoid Kurt this weekend like the plague, and I promise it's definitely going to pay off for you.
Somebody else that you want to avoid is Joey Bag of Donuts himself, in my opinion. I just don't trust this team. I don't trust Joey. I don't trust them to finish high. I don't trust them to even stay on the lead lap. This team does not handle pressure well at all. And ever since they got hit with the sanction for improper cooling of the brakes, they've been basically a dumpster fire almost every week, right? There's nothing dramatic or amazing that's happened from that team in months. I just think it's an easy fade. Your thoughts, Liehr?
Yeah, I definitely am right there with you when it comes to Joey Logano. I mean, they were when it came to practice, they were way off pace. I mean, he was in the 20s. Qualifying today, I was surprised at actually how high he actually did qualify. I mean, I wasn't expecting him to qualify in the top 10, but here we are. We're sitting at Saturday night, getting ready to go into Sunday race day, and he's starting from the 8th position. But they've obviously shown this whole season that there's something internally going on with that team. We're just not pervious to know what that is exactly. Yep. He has had a lot going on with, he's going to be a father. But I just, for some reason, there just has not been the cohesiveness going on in the number 22 garage all season. And I just don't see that changing this weekend either. Even though he's got a pretty decent starting spot there, 8th. For me, and like, I think you're on the same page, but I think there's just no other direction for him to go but back, because there's other guys behind him that also want to win as well to solidify their spot into the playoffs. You've got Eric Jones, who's been hotter than a rock, starting at 10th. And by the way, I hope all you did listen to me last 2 weeks ago when I had him as my burning rubber guy and leading 200 laps. Cha-ching, $50.
Oh yeah, dude, I owe you an extra 50 on that. Like, I do pay my debts. Like a Lannister, I pay my debts. Like,
but no, you've got Eric Jones starting 10th, who's hungry for a win to lock his place into the playoffs. You got Matt Kenseth, who also wants to. He's already there, but he wants to definitely lock it in. You've got Blaney, who's had a decent season so far as well. He's not so hot here when it comes to Darlington. I was actually debating whether to make him my going to the garage guy this week, so I probably won't have in fact, I'm not going to have any exposure on Blaney this weekend. But like I said, I like Clint Boyer. I like Ryan Newman more than I like Joey Logano. Okay. You got Jimmy Johnson, Suarez, all those guys starting behind Logano, and I'm not going to have any exposure to Logano at all.
I'll put it this way. As bad as he's been and as good as his other team, as good as Kez has been, fantasy sports, when it's like that, I will let somebody else make that bad bet, and if it beats me, so be it. That's right. Where, if you're going to make plays like that don't, in my opinion, make sense, you have to go into it knowing that this play doesn't make sense. Now, if you hit, congratulations, beat your chest if you want to, but you should know that terrible play.
Eric Jones!
I didn't even mean it like that, but no, like you could relate that to your Eric Jones domination. Like I will accept that as a viable answer since I'm paying out $50. Since I'm paying you 50, I appreciate that you made the jab against yourself. That was awesome, Liehr.
You know what I'm going to tell you right now, man?
What's that?
Paying me that $50, just go ahead and send it to Houston.
Oh, dude, I'm on it. That is awesome. Let's do that. And I'll match it, and we'll send $100 from us for the show today. Once again, guys, go ahead and donate money to the JJ Watt charity, youcaring.com, JJ Watt. This is going to wrap up the show for us this week. Liehr, it's time to say your goodbyes. Encourage people to donate again. Let's get out of here.
All right, guys. Again, appreciate you guys watching the show, commenting, giving us the thumbs up, and keep spreading the love about the show. Definitely, don't forget about our boy this weekend, Kevin Harvick, get over the 1,000 views. Let's make it this weekend because he's going to be such a dominating car this weekend. Let's make it this weekend where we get over. I know we're short on time this weekend because we waited until after qualifying, but we wanted to provide you guys the best information based on where they're going to start. So we decided to delay the show a little bit. But let's get the views over 1,000 so that way we can send somebody a signed, autographed Kevin Harvick diecast car from this weekend. But let's do it this weekend. And I cannot wait for the race tomorrow, not only with the environment of Darlington, the aura of Darlington, just the homage paid to the past, but also, we get to watch 367 laps of good racing. And it's on Sunday night. And the best part is we've got Monday off. So hopefully we'll all be celebrating with a big, with lots of money. And, I can't wait to watch this race tomorrow night and see how it all plays out. But best of luck to everybody out there, and we appreciate the love. And again, you know, I know we have some good people out there, so you know, do what you can and help your fellow man by doing what you can for Houston.
Yep, absolutely, guys. Let's do what we can. That's why I think it's awesome. Let's get the 1,000 views so we can give out that autographed Harvick diecast. And we know how awesome you guys all are, and that means more people that will probably donate money to a good cause and help out the Houstonians and all the rest of the Gulf Coast that was impacted by Hurricane Harvey. We know how awesome your guys' hearts are, and like let's do something for a good cause instead of just watching fantasy and celebrating fantasy and NASCAR for a change. We can do both. We can do all the above and have a good time doing it. Thanks, guys, for watching. We know you guys will help out. Let's do the right thing. Let's raise some money. Let's do it. Let's give you guys a diecast, an autographed Kevin Harvick diecast for doing it. Let's get the views up there. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. Let's win some money this week. Have a great one. Oh, and also, thank you to the unions out there for Labor Day. It's because of you that we have workers' rights and workers' safety standards and an awesome 3-day holiday this weekend. So thank you to the unions for that. Have a good one, guys.
Have a great weekend, everybody.